I just saw the new film on Amazon, Roadhouse, which is most likely going to be your dad's favorite movie of the year. So let's talk about it. So this film is actually a remake of a film of the same name that released in 1989. I knew nothing about the original Roadhouse film. I had no clue what this was until about last year. Jake Gyllenhaal filmed a lot of scenes at an actual UFC event, and a lot of that drew some buzz as I follow the sport a lot. And because of that, I was quite interested in seeing where this film was going to go, what it was exactly doing. I knew that aspect of it was definitely different from the 1989 version because the UFC wasn't really a big deal back then. And then this movie has now released, and I have now checked it out, and I have to say, it's not really the best movie, but I wasn't really expecting it to be that. I think the story is the biggest problem to this movie. It's just too aimless for what it wants to do. It feels like it's trying to do all these little different things, and none of it really comes together to feel that cohesive. It doesn't feel cheesy in the way that you want. It doesn't really capture any of that 80s aesthetic that I was really looking for. It's just kind of there. It starts off really interesting as you're trying to figure out what is happening to this character, why he feels the way he does, and he's just very mysterious. So there are some questions there that do draw some curiosity out of you. But other than that, as the film progresses and it's starting to give answers, it's just not that interesting. And then it just feels like it loses its momentum altogether, trying to build something at the end with a couple of entertaining sequences here and there, but overall it just doesn't come together well and just feels really mediocre and forgettable. The best performance in this whole film is easily Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, he's Jake Gyllenhaal. He's personally one of my favorite actors working, and I do think he is too good for this movie. It is really annoying sometimes being a fan of Jake Gyllenhaal because one movie he'll do, it'll really illustrate his talent as an actor. He'll be in a fantastic film that's well directed and just perfectly utilizes his style of acting. And then you get other films where he's definitely the standout because he's an amazing actor, but the film itself is very mediocre, and lately he's kind of going down that route a little bit more. I think he needs to find a new agent because I just don't like seeing him in these types of films. I think it's a waste of his talent. Even though he is really good in this movie, he is clearly having a lot of fun with the role. It's not something that is too serious. There's a lot of comedy in this, and I think Jake Gyllenhaal really delivers in those moments. And I really like the fact that they filmed a lot of these scenes at an actual UFC event because it feels real, because they were actually there. However, those scenes don't really get utilized as much as I would have thought, considering how much media attention it drew and the fact that they did it at this really expensive event and halted some moments to get some filming in. For a couple of flashbacks, it just didn't really need to be there. You could have cut that out altogether and it wouldn't have changed a single thing. Also, another issue I have with Jake Gyllenhaal being in a movie like this, it feels like while he's doing his best with the role, the writing is so poor that anyone could have played this character. Jake Gyllenhaal didn't need to be the one to fill this lead role. It really could have been anyone, and the film wouldn't have really changed that much in quality. Most of the rest of the ensemble just sound like video game NPCs. They're really just flat, and they just are giving these really awkward line deliveries. They don't work. There's this forced romance with our lead that just doesn't work. They have no chemistry together. It just has no life for a good section of this film. And I think that's what makes this feel a little bit bloated. This film sits at around 2 hours long. This film doesn't need to be that long. For what it's trying to go for, I really think it should have been real cheesy, real fun, just really embracing its B-movie aesthetic and running with it. For a solid 90-minute runtime, it could have been a fun, furious film that would have just given us a great time. It just doesn't do that. At points, it takes itself a little bit too seriously, and because of that, you can't really have as much fun with it as you would like to. Surprisingly, though, there is one addition to this cast that actually understands the assignment, and it was the least experienced actor on this film, and that was Conor McGregor, coming in for his first role. Obviously a UFC megastar, he's a household name, and he has this really exciting, fun personality. He can be someone that you really enjoy listening to 1 minute and then really just cannot stand what he has to say the next, especially now when he's in this fight with Michael Chandler that may or may not happen and he keeps talking smack on Twitter. It's like, come on, man, do something. Anyway, I digress. In the film, he's just a really charismatic personality. This character, Knox, he's really dumb. He's so dumb that he has his name tattooed on him 3 times. I guess because he forgets his own name. But Conor McGregor just plays this role so well. It's really just a toned up version of himself. And at times, I do think he does struggle with that. You can tell that he is an amateur as an actor. He is clearly talking on his specific cues. He's following instructions to the T. There's no fluidity where the actor is giving themselves to the role a little bit more. And it is really noticeable at points. But then again, this character and the charisma he shows is just so fun that you don't really care, because guess what? It's embracing its B-movie aesthetic in the scenes with Knox. It's just amazing, and I really wanted more of that from this movie, that silliness and just knowing what you are as a movie. The rest of it, really forgettable. The antagonist of this has the most generic thing ever. He wants to build a bunch of hotels. He's rich. He wants to serve the rich people. It's nothing that you haven't heard before 1 billion times over, done just as poorly in 1 billion other movies. It's not inspired in those aspects at all, and the person playing him does a reasonable job, but you can't really do that much with this material. It's just whatever. Look, overall, I really wanted to like Roadhouse, especially in the beginning. It was really sinking its hooks into me, and I was actually having a good time with it, and then it just went on and on and on, and it just lost all momentum to the point where I just really stopped enjoying it and wanted it to be over by the time we hit about 1 hour and 20 minutes into this movie, which would have been an ideal runtime for this. But we had another 40 minutes left to go, and while those scenes near the end were really embracing what it was meant to be, I almost didn't care by that point because it had just run its course with me. As a score, I'm going to give Roadhouse a 2.5 out of 5. I just think it's really mediocre. It's not offensively bad, but in a way, I would have liked it to have been, because that would have been funny and once again would have embraced its B-movie aesthetic and just being this goofy, cheesy movie. Anyway, those are my thoughts towards Roadhouse. Let me know what you think about the film in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.